And all right, welcome to the Johnny Dollar Show. I have the pleasure and the privilege of having not only a great dev and futurist, but a collaborator and friend, Chris Lumpkin. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Johnny. Thanks for having me on.
Man, thanks for being on. We've been working on a lot of stuff together in the past, but recently we've been working on the Artist Liberation Front token. And Chris is the lead dev on that, and the only dev at the moment.
The only, yeah.
I'm pretty sure more are coming. Just I'll give a brief summary of what the Artist Liberation Front token is. It is a art token NFT, ERC 721 minting software. It's open source. And brief history is Chris was going to help me mint my own token, set up a contract. And as we got into it, we got to talking about the current system, realized it could be better. And Chris got involved. You want to add to that? Or, what do you think about the Artist Liberation Front?
Well, I think it's you and I have been talking. You have been talking a lot about non-fungible tokens lately, for a while, like a lot. And I've been trying to figure out what they're about. And after looking at the standard, the smart contract interface, I was like, well, that looks really stupid easy, right? It's just like 8 functions to implement, or to use as we did Open Zeppelin and take some of their kind contributions to the commons of the blockchain world. And I had to do some tinkering with it, but really the contract we're using is just one line of code. And the rest of it is just, mostly just standing on the shoulders of giants. So what I have been working on a lot is the front end code to interface with the blockchain, so we could, blockchain stuff is very abstract, and people need to be able to put their hands on it and touch it. And that's, it's been a problem for me since I've been messing around the space, trying to do some development work, worked on some, a project for a client. What people can't see, they don't understand and they don't trust. So putting a front end on it and making it more accessible to people, so that many artists can come in and create rare digital items.
Awesome, and we're doing it open source. Why do you think open source is important? In 25 words or less, or no, actually take your time. It's a big subject, but for people out there that are uninitiated, why is open source important? What is open source?
I'll try to be as concise as I can here with these big questions. I've been in software development for about 20 years, and at the beginning of my career, I was really into open source. I'd been learning Java in school. And the thing about a software library is a lot of stuff you need to do doesn't come with it. It's, depending on the Pag and Beckett, back then, most people were buying proprietary software. My employers laughed at me when I wanted to bring in open source software. Obviously, the business model of open source took off. And
what is open source?
It is, one thing we say in the open source space is it's free like freedom, not like free beer. It's not just software that's free. It is intellectual property that has been gifted back to the commons, to the world. For one thing, let's take our project as an example, right? ALF, I'm the only developer on it. And unless we get some other people interested, the code isn't going to be as good, right? Because it'll just be me. It doesn't matter how good I am. it's my eyes. You get too close to something, you make mistakes. So having other developers join a project really helps to make it better. They catch mistakes, they catch security flaws. And today, half of the world runs on Linux, which is an open source operating system. Almost all the software developers I know are using Git, which is developed by the Linux Foundation as well. Linux developers.
So just to make sure it's clear, you're putting out a call for any developers that want to help with the Artist Liberation Front token. Come check it out. Take a look.
Absolutely. And we're right now we're not making any money on this, and I don't think we foresee that we will on this project. This is kind of a demonstrator. It's to get artists, get more, in the blockchain space. People have said there aren't that many devs, but honestly, I've run across a lot of devs. What I haven't found are a lot of good projects. So I want to get artists interested to please tell me what they need. Tell me what makes this work better. And if you did have money in your pocket, tell me what you would pay for. Another thing I've seen people do in open source projects is post bounties on Gitcoin, which is something we can talk about. It's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah. We'll keep the technical stuff to a minimum just for now. But yeah, and I started this and Chris jumped on board first to help me out. But you asked me, what do I want to get out of this? And that was a few weeks ago. And my answer was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, to liberate artists, to empower artists to make their own art, without the need of anyone else's permission. As well, and it's kind of expanded from there. But that is the primary mission. And it's, it is open source. People can come look at it. They can help. They can clone it. If they don't like what we're doing, they can go download the code and go fork it themselves.
Fork it.
Yeah, exactly. So cool, Chris. That's great. So Artist Liberation Front, we're minting tokens. We're allowing artists to mint their own tokens. We've gotten some good feedback so far. So let me ask you just a couple questions about yourself. You are a futurist. And could you sum that up, or explain that for, the layman or just normal people, normies, as I believe devs call us?
Yeah, well, I guess there's probably different kinds of futurists, right? Most of the futurist stuff I see coming out lately is very dystopian. I think I'm more of a positive futurist, in part because I think that, what starts in here and comes out of here, manifests out here in the world. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of systems thinking. Like I said, I've been working with computer systems for quite a while. I also had a very avid interest and some dabbling for a few years in permaculture, which is systems thinking applied to natural systems and how people live on planet Earth. And after a while, the two of these things in my life started to come together, and then when about 2 years ago, I was introduced to the blockchain space, I was like, oh, it lets us, make, gamify and create systems where we couldn't before. So it really makes me hopeful about things, of people trying to change the world. A lot of people were doing this stuff, these local currencies, right? Not digital, just like, in Asheville, North Carolina, they have a certain kind of local dollar, right? I've seen so many things putter out because,
or I believe they call them sometimes, like just heading out.
Ithaca, New York has them. They're like some of the really progressive kind of wacky places, but they couldn't get user adoption. It wasn't easy. It's like a lot of the stuff that we face with blockchain, but blockchain's a lot cooler because my code can move magic internet money,
You are a magician. All the devs are, in my opinion.
It makes a lot of things possible.
Okay.
You know, it gives us powers that we didn't have before. When money is just numbers in a bank's database or on a mainframe computer, the work is really boring. I've been there and done it, and you know, I'm just excited to be in a space where, you know, maybe I can solve some more interesting problems.
What got you into the space? Was there any particular thing or person? Or
Well, I work at a consulting firm, Epon Technologies, which is based in France. I work at the U.S. branch. My boss here in the U.S. tapped me and said, you know, I've heard a lot of stuff about blockchain. Do you know anything about it? And I said, well, I know a little bit about Bitcoin. I've heard of Ethereum. Not really. He said, well, it's really hot. Lots of customers and prospects are talking about it. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'll look into it. And I had just increasingly over the years been getting kind of like, I'm a futurist and I want us to use technology to do great things, but I'm not excited just by technology for its own sake. It's like the awesome stuff you can do with it. I had not been doing awesome stuff, you know.
You're doing awesome stuff now, man.
I had been taking forms that people fill out by hand and putting them on a web page. You know, it's not, you know, I was just kind of at the end of my rope of like, what, you know, I want to have an impact. And like, I have a good job. I'm very grateful for that, but I wanted to make an impact.
Well, you know, you are making an impact with this Artist Liberation Front token. I believe so, because it can be used for a lot of things, you know, and all the people I've been alpha testing it with this past week have been really amazed. And I mean, I'm not so humbly going to say, you know, out of all the art token NFTs out there right now, it's by far the best, by far.
Yeah, and it's just the beginning. I mean, we've really just started to scratch the surface of what you can do with it. There's a lot of things, other features in ERC 721 that we haven't explored or kind of exposed on the web interface, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should talk about that at maybe a more later time when we get maybe have a drink in front of us. Although you may already have one now.
For yourself.
You know, I mean, it is sunset, and it's like, I waited all day, to stay sober for this recording. Who am I kidding? I'm not sober. Anyway,
yeah, I was going to say, I think you should look up the definition of sober.
All right, man. Let me just ask a couple questions, kind of. So you've been in the space for a few years. You got in to make an impact. What is your current project? Is the Artist Liberation Front? Do you have any other projects you'd like to talk about?
I don't have anything else that's like hot right now. And again, I'm a consultant, and what I spend a lot of my days doing is looking for clients. So this project, Artist Liberation Front, was something we kind of cooked up, and it was on the corner of my desk when I had another project. But then that wrapped up, and I had free time, and then it moved to the center of my desk. If nothing else, for the learning opportunity. And I have learned a lot, both about non-fungible tokens and also just about front-end development was never my thing. And I had a crash course in it, putting together this very simple looking site that looks like an engineer built it.
Well, maybe we can find somebody that wants to contribute to the front end. Because we really want to give to the space. I know I do. I see a lot of people. I come from a crypto anarchist front, and you know that. Despite the fact we're on Google Hangouts, unfortunately, all the open source, privacy featured ones, the lag time and the video is just not, suitable for recording as of yet. Especially, we have to bear with Google. That being said, we do have an open source project. And where can they find out more about the project? or get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing?
So you can find out more about the project at artistunleashed.app. And let's see.
I'll add those links at the end of the video.
Okay.
Is that nice?
That is my email and my web domain, which I'm actually, because I'm learning web development, I'm getting ready to revamp that whole thing. So it's kind of wonky right now. But anyway, this will definitely go to my inbox on a hard drive in another country.
And if someone wanted to follow you on Twitter?
I am Utopian.
Great.
All right, and you can pass those out later for all my fans, my adoring fans.
Man,
They're beating on the door right now.
Well, I know you're on your way to Prague in a couple of days, and I appreciate you talking with us. And just wanted to ask a couple questions, for the fans out there. What projects are you most interested in that outside of the ones you're doing? Any other projects out there in the space that you're interested in, that you're keeping an eye on, or parts?
I'm really interested in some of the beyond blockchain projects. I'm super, this.
I do.
You know what I'm about to say. I'm super interested in holochain. As soon as I get wrap up some stuff with Artist Liberation Front and make a couple updates to the site and write a blog post about it, then I'm going to flip and I'm going to, I have some other things that do at work, but I'm definitely into digging more into Holo and Holochain and their dev kit. I'm also interested.
Is it the tech, or is it the philosophy behind it?
Well, I told you that my perspective is one of both living systems and, electronic systems, digital systems. And, Art Brock, whenever I've watched his videos and he talks about the project, he talks about how it's a network that's designed like nature, right? Like, I mean, that is absolutely where I'm coming from. It's like one of those weird things when you hear this, this great speaker kind of capture your imagination, and then you hear him saying things that are things that you've been saying to your friends that your friends have sick and tired of hearing you say. Yeah,
I know. I've heard you say it a lot. You've been talking about it, and I look forward to finding out more about it and having you back on the show later, and you can talk about your next project once you've gotten beyond blockchain. So
another one I was really interested in is SingularityNet. They're doing some work with AI, with a general purpose AI, not just machine learning, not like advanced, spying on your text messages and Alexa trying to figure out what you're doing next, but actual developing an artificial intelligence. And I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm a futurist. I'm not a 5-year futurist. I'm more like a 500-year futurist. So I just really want to know where things are going. And when I look at the blockchain tech and the projects that we have in front of us today, I see some limitations, and I see this gap, and I just want to know how we're what's going to get us there from here. I'm not a maximalist about any project or product. I'm a solutions architect, and I solve problems with the tools that are available.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, you're a futurist. Where do you see the space going in the next 6 months to a year? I realize you think 500 years ahead, but indulge us with 6 to 12 months. What do you see happening in the space?
Sure. Well, I'm not an investor, and I'm much less sharp about investing than a lot of my friends in crypto. I'm just an engineer. However, I do think that we're starting to see, a shaking out of the weak, you know, a cutting out of the sick parts. There's some regulation coming in the space. Some to a certain degree that's cool. I do like having a few dark corners here and there. I think it's good for a society. For people to be able to have privacy. And I know how you feel about that. There's a lot of stuff with like security and scalability. Like we're seeing these problems with mining, right? With 51% attacks or the threat of them, because when the economics don't support miners, you don't have enough, and you don't have enough security. And then there's scalability, this whole transactions per second thing, second layer networks. There's, Ethereum, which has primarily been my area of work and expertise, is, Constantinople's coming. Casper's coming. There's a lot of cool stuff that they're working on. But the problem, another thing you and I have talked about quite a bit, is that when a network and a project is also a currency, and there's money invested in it, and then there's like tribalism, and there's bias, but also there's a difficulty in getting it to move and getting that ship to steer a little bit to the left or the right, because there's all these people arguing and there's all these people with money at stake. And, I applaud them for any attempt at governance of the what's become quite a mob. And then you get a newbie, you get Art Brock coming on the scene with 25 people, 30 people, how many people are in Hollow? And they're like totally focused on the next thing, on doing it right. It's not even available yet because they're like laying all this groundwork and getting ready. Can Ethereum, I don't want to talk about Bitcoin here because that's really more just hard currency. It doesn't have as much of the.
Well, I'd like to avoid the politics of it. As you mentioned before, there's politics. Stuff you're saying will rile some people up. You know what I mean? Like there are vested interests. So, as you said before, blockchain agnostic, work on whether the projects works. I feel the same way, or at least I feel that way. And with Holochain, I look forward to see what they bring, but they ain't brought it yet. They may. Granted, but they haven't done it yet. Now, and I'm keeping a watchful eye on them, and I have high hopes.
Yeah, it's interesting because from the dev perspective, like I am in some cases, like I'm just like struggling with Solidity and some of the limitations with trying to jam my code into blocks. So my contract has to be small enough to fit in a block, and I'm not going to get technical. I'm just going to say this one kind of high level thing, which is that a blockchain is an immutable, database with 100% redundancy across all the nodes. That's not the most efficient data store for everything. So, it doesn't solve all the problems. There's other problems we need to solve that isn't the best tool for. And that's where I think Holochain.
Blockchain won't solve all of life's problems. Seriously? Come on, man. Wow. Blockchain does it all. Blockchain did my dishes. Blockchain, no.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, I'm a consultant and I work with a lot of software engineers, and a lot of them laugh at me when I tell them I'm a blockchain practice lead at a consulting firm. And they're like, that's a joke. What are you doing? Why don't you get serious, man? Come on back to work, but I see the promise of it. But I also see 6 months to a year.
Oh, back to the original question. Okay.
6 months to a year. I think the strong players that are around today are still going to be around. I think we're probably going to have a little bit better idea whether. I think with the next couple of upgrades coming to Ethereum, we'll have an idea, can it really be the world computer? So
Got you.
let's come back next year about this time, and let's do this another New Year episode, and we can look back and
A look back. So to sum up, you said in the next 6 months to a year, the strong players will still be here, and you, like I, am looking forward to see where Ethereum goes with the next few upgrades. Is that according to Christopher Lumpkin? That's where I'm cool with that.
yeah. And one of the great
else
things
you'd like to add? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things they have in the Ethereum space is just they collaborate really well. It's the thing I liked about getting into blockchain is that I see more collaboration than competition. And, with Ethereum and Omiza and, there's this whole ecosystem and they're all pushing towards the same thing. And, man, I'm just, I want them to succeed, but, at the same time, I'm watching. Here's the thing. I don't know what to say about 6 months to a year because a lot of the coolest projects that I've run across were kind of stealth or kind of not really well known until like they were just about to pop. Who knows what's going on in China? There's tons of stuff that I'll hear whispers or murmurs but I will happily predict that 6 months to a year from now, the user base of people who are using blockchain on a daily basis will be greater.
Okay. That's
and the number of people I hope who are using blockchain and don't know it will increase.
Okay. Cool.
The boring stuff.
That's going to end this segment, but we're going to come back for talk with us a little bit more on more casual tone. All right, guys. Thanks. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks, Chris. We're going to continue talking a little later.
All right.
Cut. Okay, man. So we're going to just keep talking, but I'm still recorded, by the way.
But we're not live?
Oh, no. As far as I know, we aren't. If we are, I mean, there's probably 6 people watching us. I doubt that. Six lonely people.
In their mom's basements.
As of now, I haven't even promoted this site or put anything on here. And feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want.
Yeah. Also, I was going to put some social media links in the web app.
For what? You yourself or?
No. For GitHub and Telegram and anything else. Like, is there?
I might make a Twitter for it. Yeah. Or not.
Or not.
Yeah, like we're back and we're talking about Artists Unleashed.
That's another thing. It's a little confusing because both of those terms are mixed up in both of them. And I actually saw the actual token says Artists Unleashed, but the symbol is ALF.
Well, I can change. Well, the Artists Unleashed, is that tied to the contract? Or is that to what I entered in?
It's in the contract right now.
Okay. Hey, it is what it is. Yeah.
Well, we didn't think this was going to be our last token anyway.
No, and I don't think it will be. I'm like to spin up a couple contracts myself. A couple more before you head out. It's still a learning process. The thing with all blockchain stuff, I'm just trying things. We're just trying things to make sure it works. I think you've said it before, break things or fail faster. I forget, I've learned a lot hanging out with devs. Very organized, or at least they work on organizing themselves collectively in a very good way. That being said, I don't necessarily want to give technologists all governance power.
No, and that's why you notice I was using the GitHub issues that should be helpful for transparency. Did you see the GitHub?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Excuse me. Yeah, I did see the GitHub, and I checked it out. I was going to post some things on there myself. Just a couple features I would like. But right now I feel like we're so close to MVP before you go that people may not know this. I'm going on an NFT tour. I'm packing up the car, taking the dog, and we're hitting a few conferences and art festivals. I got some shows lined up, and I'm going to do some meetups along the way and teach some artists how to mint their own tokens, and basically teaching a man to fish instead of feeding him a fish, or whatever. Give him a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, you feed him forever. And that's what I want to do. Trying to set something up in Miami, New Orleans, working my way west. Probably head back north when the weather gets a little warmer. We'll see how it goes. So it's pretty cool. Man, I think unless you got something else you want to talk about, I might wrap up the recording.
All right.
Yeah.